The exile. Commander Sarah Chen stood motionless on the bridge of the Earth vessel Resilient, her eyes fixed on the holographic projection hovering before her. The message was being broadcast on all frequencies across known space, impossible to ignore. Around her, the bridge crew had fallen into a stunned silence as the eight-limbed arachnid spokesperson for the Galactic Consortium delivered the announcement that would forever change humanity's place in the cosmos. After extensive deliberation, the Consortium Council has officially classified humans as a disruptive species, the alien declared, its mandibles clicking between words. Earth and all human-occupied territories are hereby placed under immediate quarantine. All human vessels must return to their solar system within 60 standard cycles. Any human found in Consortium space after this deadline will be subject to immediate detention. Sarah's hand gripped the edge of the command console until her knuckles turned white. The Resilient had been on a routine diplomatic mission to the Centauri Exchange when the broadcast interrupted all communications. Now, without warning or apparent provocation, humanity had been labeled a galactic threat. This has to be some kind of mistake, Lieutenant Marcus Rivera said from the navigation station, his voice barely above a whisper. Sarah turned to her communications officer. Contact Earth Command immediately. We need confirmation and instructions. While they waited for a response, Sarah pulled up the ship's roster on her personal display. The Resilient carried 347 crew members, plus 28 civilian specialists and diplomats. All of them, now suddenly declared persona non grata across civilized space. The response from Earth Command came faster than expected, which told Sarah everything she needed to know about the gravity of the situation. Admiral Elena Volkov's face appeared on the main screen, lines of tension visible around her eyes. Commander Chen, the broadcast is legitimate. The Consortium Council voted 17-6 to declare humanity of disruptive influence on galactic stability. I'm ordering all Earth vessels to return home immediately. Sarah leaned forward. Admiral, what happened? We've been peaceful members of the consortium for over 3 decades. That's what we're trying to determine, Volkov responded. Our ambassadors were given no warning. One moment they were participating in trade negotiations, the next they were being escorted to their ships. The Admiral's expression hardened. I need the Resilient to make a detour before returning home. Your ship is closest to the Orion Sector archives. We need to know what triggered this. Sarah understood immediately. The archives contain the records of all consortium deliberations. We'll retrieve whatever information we can. Admiral. Be careful, Commander. As of now, we're operating under the assumption that this quarantine could escalate to outright hostility. You have 48 hours to complete your mission before heading back to Earth. Volkov out. As the transmission ended, Sarah turned to her executive officer. Commander Rajpatal, set course for the Orion Archives. Maximum stealth protocols. The archives will be guarded, Raj warned. Then we'll need to be creative, Sarah replied. I want all department heads in the tactical room in 10 minutes. While the Resilient altered course, across consortium space thousands of human ships received similar orders. Merchants, scientists, explorers, and colonists, all suddenly faced with forced evacuation. On the mining outpost of Vega 9, Chief Engineer Thomas Wu watched in disbelief as consortium security forces gave the 212 human workers just 12 hours to evacuate a facility they had operated for 15 years. This is our home, Thomas argued with the Meridian security chief. Half of us have families here. Where are we supposed to go with only a few hours' notice? The four-armed Meridian's expression remained impassive. Consortium directive. All humans must depart immediately. You may take personal possessions only. Thomas looked around at the mining facility that human ingenuity had transformed from a barren asteroid into a thriving operation that produced 40% of the sector's neodymium. What about our equipment? Our research? All installations and technology remain consortium property, the security chief stated coldly. In the research district of the consortium capital World Harmonium, Dr. Sophia Okafor frantically downloaded data to secure drives as alarms blared throughout the Xenobiology Institute. Her hands moved with practiced precision as she copied decades of research on interspecies medical treatments. "They're sealing off the human wing in 5 minutes," her assistant, Dr. Lee Jung-ho, warned as he packed physical samples into preservation units. "I need 3 more minutes," Sophia replied without looking up. This contains the genome maps for cross-species viral therapies. Humanity spent generations developing these treatments. The consortium says all research conducted on their worlds belongs to them, Jung-ho said bitterly. Sophia's eyes flashed with determination. "They can have the facilities, but the knowledge comes home with us." Throughout human-occupied space, similar scenes played out as the quarantine announcement sent shockwaves through interstellar society. Non-human allies suddenly found themselves forced to choose sides, and many regretfully distanced themselves from their human friends and colleagues. Back on Earth, an emergency session of the United Earth Government convened in Geneva. President Miguel Santos addressed the assembled global representatives, his normally confident demeanor strained by the crisis unfolding around them. "The consortium's decision is both unjustified and unprecedented," Santos declared. "While we comply with the quarantine directive to ensure the safety of our citizens abroad, we categorically reject the classification of humanity as a disruptive species." Defense Secretary Amara Osai presented the immediate security concerns. "We have approximately 1.7 million citizens on 94 worlds beyond our solar system. The logistics of evacuating them, all within 60 days, is already straining our transport capacity. Additionally, we're tracking over 3,000 human vessels in consortium space that must return home." "What about our colonies?" asked the representative from Mars. "Under the quarantine terms, we retain our solar system territories," President Santos explained. "Earth, Mars, the Jovian moons, and our Saturn outposts remain under human jurisdiction. But everything beyond Neptune's orbit is now off-limits." Economic Minister Lin Wei delivered the most sobering assessment. "Our economy has been integrated with consortium trade networks for 3 decades. 47% of our advanced technology relies on imports that will now be cut off. Manufacturing across multiple sectors will face immediate disruption." The Australian representative stood. "What exactly are we being accused of? What makes us disruptive?" President Santos gestured to Foreign Minister Adiola Johnson, who stepped forward with a tablet display. The official declaration cites 3 primary concerns: our unpredictable innovation patterns, our rapid territorial expansion, and most concerning, our demonstrated ability to adapt consortium technologies beyond their intended parameters. "They're quarantining us because we're good at improving their technology?" the Brazilian representative asked incredulously. "Essentially, yes," Johnson confirmed. "Our preliminary intelligence suggests the Arachnid Collective led the vote against us. Their technological dominance in the consortium has been challenged by recent human innovations." President Santos reclaimed the floor. "Effective immediately, I am establishing an emergency council with representatives from science, defense, and industry. Our first priority is bringing our people home safely. Our second is preparing Earth for potential isolation lasting years or even decades." He paused, looking around the room. "The consortium believes they're containing a problem. They don't realize they've just removed all constraints on human ingenuity." As the Resilient approached the Orion Sector archives, Sarah gathered her infiltration team. Lieutenant Zoe Diaz, head of security, outlined their approach. "The archives are primarily automated, with minimal security during standard operations," Zoe explained, displaying the facility's schematics. "However, given recent events, we should expect enhanced patrols." "Can we access the system remotely?" Sarah asked. The ship's AI specialist, Dr. Alan Cheng, shook his head. "The archives exist in an isolated network specifically to prevent remote intrusion. We need direct physical access to the central terminals. Then we'll have to go in," Sarah decided. "Prepare the stealth shuttle. I'll lead the team myself." Raj objected immediately. "Commander, protocol dictates. Protocol went out the window when we were declared galactic pariahs, Sarah interrupted. This mission is too important to delegate. 4 hours later, Sarah found herself navigating through the cavernous data repository of the archives, accompanied by Zoe and Alan. They had entered through a maintenance conduit, using adaptive camouflage suits to avoid the Trotirian guards. "We need to reach the Council deliberation records," Sarah whispered as they moved between towering data stacks. "Find out who pushed for this quarantine and why." Alan interfaced his specialized datapad with the archive terminal. "The security protocols have been upgraded. This will take time." "Time we don't have," Zoe warned, checking the patrol schedule. "We have 18 minutes before the next security sweep." Sarah made a quick decision. Focus on the voting records and any private communications between consortium representatives immediately before the vote. We need to understand the true motivation behind this. Alan worked frantically, his fingers dancing across the interface as encryption barriers fell one by one. "I'm in," he announced after several tense minutes. "Downloading now." As data flowed into their secure storage, Sarah scanned the preliminary findings. The arachnids called an emergency session 3 days ago. Something spooked them. Alan pointed to a specific data cluster. There, a human research team on Proxima Centauri V applied for a patent on an improved quantum entanglement communicator. The design would have rendered half the consortium's communication network obsolete. That's it. They quarantined our entire species over a patent application, Zoe asked incredulously. It wasn't just the patent, Sarah realized as she read further. The arachnids presented projections showing that at our current rate of innovation, humans would surpass their technological dominance within 15 years. The quarantine wasn't about protection. It was about suppressing competition. A sudden alarm blared through the archives. "We've been detected," Zoe announced, drawing her stun weapon. "Time to go." They fled through the labyrinthine data repository as security forces converged on their position. When they reached the maintenance shaft, Zoe took a defensive position. "Get that data to the shuttle," she told Sarah. "I'll hold them here." Sarah hesitated. "That's not happening, Lieutenant. We all leave together." "With respect, Commander, that data is more important than any of us. Go." Before Sarah could argue further, Alan offered a third option. "I can trigger a cascading database query. It'll overwhelm their security systems temporarily." "Do it," Sarah ordered. Alan's fingers flew across his device, and seconds later, every alert panel in the facility began flashing as the system crashed under the strain of trillions of simultaneous data requests. In the confusion, the team escaped to their shuttle. As the Resilient broke orbit and accelerated toward Earth, Sarah reviewed the stolen data with her senior staff. What they found was both alarming and enlightening. "The arachnids have been monitoring our technological development with increasing concern for years," she explained. "When our quantum communications breakthrough was reported, they presented evidence to the consortium that humanity was evolving too quickly to be safely integrated into galactic society. They're afraid of us," Raj concluded. "With good reason," Dr. Maya Singh, the ship's chief scientist, commented. "Without constraints from consortium regulations, our development will actually accelerate, not regress." Sarah nodded, her expression resolute. "And that's exactly what Earth Command intends. Before we left consortium space, I received encrypted orders. The Resilient isn't just being recalled. We're being reassigned to Operation Phoenix." "What's Operation Phoenix?" several voices asked simultaneously. Sarah activated a secure holographic display showing humanity's home system, a comprehensive plan to transform our isolation into an opportunity. "The quarantine has given us something invaluable. Time to develop on our own terms, without consortium interference." She expanded the display to show development zones throughout the solar system. "While the diplomats work to reverse the quarantine, we'll be preparing for either outcome, reintegration on our terms, or, if necessary, the ability to break the quarantine by force." The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. Finally, Marcus spoke what everyone was thinking. They thought they were containing us. Instead, they just removed all the constraints on what humanity can become. As the Resilient raced toward Earth, throughout consortium space, the last human ships were also making their final journeys home. The galactic powers had made their decision. Soon, they would discover the consequences of caking a species that had never learned how to accept limitations. The exile of humanity had begun. But as the consortium would eventually learn, trying to contain human potential would prove to be their most catastrophic miscalculation. The Resurgence. 3 years had passed since the Galactic Consortium had declared humanity a disruptive species and forced their retreat behind the boundaries of their home solar system. What the Consortium had intended as punishment had instead become the catalyst for the most remarkable period of human innovation in history. Commander Sarah Chen stood at the viewport of the orbital shipyard above Mars, watching as construction drones swarmed around the massive frame of the Defiance, humanity's first completely independent starship design. Unlike previous vessels that had incorporated consortium technology, the Defiance represented something entirely new. "Impressive, isn't she?" Admiral Volkov said, joining Sarah at the viewport. In the 3 years since the quarantine began, Alina Volkov had aged visibly, silver streaking through her once dark hair. The burden of leadership during humanity's greatest crisis had taken its toll. "She's beautiful," Sarah agreed, studying the unconventional design of the vessel. Where consortium ships favored symmetrical, geometric shapes, the Defiance was sleek and organic, its hull composed of overlapping plates that resembled scales. "How long until she's ready?" 2 months, Volkov replied. "Just in time for your next mission." Sarah turned, surprised. "I thought the Resilient was scheduled for the Kuiper Belt Patrol." "Plans have changed," Volkov said, activating a secure holographic display. A star map appeared, with several points illuminated beyond the quarantine boundary. "Operation Phoenix is entering its next phase. Your team's work gathering intelligence has been invaluable, but now we need more." The Admiral expanded one of the highlighted locations. "This is Outpost Whisper, on the moon of a gas giant in the Ta-Ceti system. Officially, it doesn't exist. In reality, it's our most important forward base." Sarah studied the display with growing understanding. "We never fully withdrew from consortium space. Officially, we complied with every aspect of the quarantine," Volkov said with a thin smile. "Unofficially, we left behind volunteer teams on 17 worlds. They've been operating under deep cover, gathering intelligence, and establishing a network that spans 3 sectors." "How many people?" Sarah asked. "Nearly 500. Scientists, engineers, intelligence operatives, even a few civilians who refuse to leave their adopted homes. They've been instrumental in our understanding of how the consortium is evolving in our absence." Volkov's expression darkened. "And they've confirmed our suspicions about the arachnid's true motives." Before Sarah could ask for clarification, the Admiral continued. "You'll be briefed fully once the Resilient is upgraded with our new stealth systems. For now, know that your ship will be transporting critical technology to Outpost Whisper, as well as extracting key personnel who've completed their missions. The Resilient can't possibly cross consortium space undetected," Sarah objected. "Their sensor nets would pick us up the moment we passed Neptune." Admiral Volkov's smile widened. 3 years ago, you'd have been right. But as I said, humanity has been busy." Later that day, Sarah met with Dr. Maya Singh in one of the secure laboratories beneath the Olympus Mons research complex on Mars. Maya had been the Resilient's chief scientist during their hasty retreat from consortium space, but she'd been reassigned to Operation Phoenix's technology division shortly after their return. "Commander, it's good to see you," Maya greeted her, deactivating the security field around her workstation. "I've been hoping they'd assign the Resilient to field test my latest project." Admiral Volkov was deliberately vague about what exactly we're transporting to Outpost Whisper, Sarah noted. "I'm guessing it has something to do with whatever you're working on here." Maya gestured to what appeared to be a standard shipboard quantum processor, the kind found on all advanced vessels. This looks identical to consortium quantum cores, doesn't it? Sarah nodded, unsure where this was leading. That's the point, Maya explained. 3 years ago, when we were forced to leave consortium space, we brought back something invaluable: an understanding of how their technology fundamentally works. Without their regulations limiting what we could research, we've made breakthroughs they never imagined possible. She activated the processor, and a holographic display appeared above it, showing complex mathematical equations that shifted and evolved in real time. This is the Echo Protocol. It doesn't just mask our energy signatures. It actively mimics the background radiation of space itself. To consortium sensors, a ship equipped with this technology simply doesn't exist. Sarah stared at the display in amazement. They always restricted our access to their sensor technology. Now I understand why. The arachnids knew that given enough time, humans would eventually surpass their technological capabilities, Maya confirmed. The quarantine was meant to stunt our development by cutting us off from advanced materials and research. Instead, it forced us to innovate in ways we never would have otherwise. And now we're ready to move beyond our solar system again, Sarah concluded. Maya's expression grew serious. Not just move beyond it, Commander. The Echo Protocol is the key to ending the quarantine on our terms. But first, we need to deliver it to our operatives who've remained in consortium space. 2 weeks later, the Resilient underwent its final upgrades in the orbital shipyard. The vessel that had once been a standard Earth exploration ship had been transformed. Its hull now incorporated the same scale-like plates being used on the Defiance, and its power core had been replaced with a revolutionary fusion system that operated without the telltale radiation signature that consortium sensors were calibrated to detect. Sarah supervised the installation of the Echo Protocol processor in the Resilience Command Center. Her original bridge crew had largely remained intact through the quarantine years, though all of them had changed in subtle ways. Lieutenant Marcus Rivera, once the ship's junior navigation officer, now served as second officer, his youthful enthusiasm tempered by the responsibilities of leadership. Final diagnostics are complete, Commander, Marcus reported. Echo Protocol is online and stable. Engineering reports all systems nominal. Thank you, Marcus, Sarah replied. Inform the crew we'll be departing at 600 tomorrow. Mission briefing at 500. May I ask where we're headed first? Marcus inquired. Sarah hesitated, then decided her officers deserved to know. Our primary mission is to reach Outpost Whisper in the Ta City system. But first, we have a rendezvous in the Kuiper Belt with representatives of the Nebulon remnant. Marcus couldn't hide his surprise. The Nebulons. They were expelled from the consortium decades before we were. Exactly, Sarah confirmed, which makes them natural allies in our current situation. The Nebulons had once been founding members of the Galactic Consortium, until philosophical differences led to their expulsion nearly a century earlier. Unlike humans, they had refused to retreat to their home system, instead scattering throughout the galaxy's frontiers, becoming nomads and traders operating outside consortium jurisdiction. At the edge of humanity's solar system, beyond Pluto's orbit, the Resilient rendezvoused with an unusual vessel. The Nebulon ship resembled a collection of crystalline spheres connected by translucent filaments, utterly unlike the rigid designs favored by consortium species. Sarah welcomed the Nebulon delegation aboard the Resilient with appropriate diplomatic protocols. The aliens moved with fluid grace, their bioluminescent bodies pulsing with subtle patterns that supplemented their verbal communication. Commander Chen, we are gratified by this opportunity. The lead Nebulon, who called itself Resonance, communicated through a translator device. Our people have observed humanity's response to isolation with great interest. We appreciate your willingness to meet, Sarah replied. Earth's government believes we have mutual interests that could be served by cooperation. Indeed, Resonance agreed, its body shifting to a deeper blue hue. The consortium's fear of emergent species has only grown since our expulsion. What they did to your people, they did to ours. But you have adapted far more successfully than we did. The meeting continued for several hours as both sides shared information about consortium activities and discussed possibilities for alliance. The Nebulans, with their established network of non-consortium trade routes, offered humanity an alternative path back to the stars that wouldn't require direct confrontation with the quarantine enforcement fleets. "There is something else you should know," Resonance said as the meeting concluded. "The arachnids have been losing influence within the consortium. Their insistence on maintaining the human quarantine is increasingly viewed as unnecessary by other member species. Your absence has been felt. Many worlds that relied on human innovation have seen their economies stagnate." "That's valuable intelligence," Sarah acknowledged. "Has there been any formal discussion of lifting the quarantine?" "Not yet," Resonance responded, its color shifting to a contemplative purple. "But the Meridians and Triterians have both privately expressed regret over the decision. With the right pressure applied in the right places, the consortium's unity on this issue could fracture." After the Nebulans departed, the Resilient activated its Echo protocol and slipped past the quarantine boundary undetected. For the first time in 3 years, a human vessel was deliberately venturing into forbidden space. The journey to Ta City took 11 days, during which the Resilient successfully evaded 3 consortium patrol fleets. The Echo protocol performed beyond expectations, rendering the ship effectively invisible to standard detection methods. Outpost Whisper, hidden on a desolate moon orbiting a gas giant, was camouflaged to appear as an abandoned mining installation. As the Resilient settled into a concealed docking bay beneath the moon's surface, Sarah was struck by the ingenuity displayed by the humans who had remained behind. Dr. Elias Okonkwo, the outpost's director, greeted Sarah and her team as they disembarked. "Commander Chen, welcome to what we affectionately call humanity's first embassy to the stars." Elias led them through tunnels that opened into a surprisingly vast underground complex. "We started with just 37 volunteers who failed to evacuate before the quarantine deadline," he explained. "Now we coordinate a network of 482 human operatives across consortium space." "I had no idea the operation was this extensive," Sarah admitted, taking in the sophisticated communication arrays and research laboratories. "Necessity breeds invention," Elias replied. "When the quarantine was announced, many of us realized that humanity would need eyes and ears beyond the solar system. Earth officially disavows any knowledge of our existence, of course." "That changes today," Sarah informed him. "Operation Phoenix is entering its active phase. We've brought the Echo protocol and orders to begin technology dissemination to key human cells throughout consortium space." Elias's eyes widened. "Then the rumors are true. Earth is preparing to challenge the quarantine." "Not exactly," Sarah clarified. "We're preparing to render it irrelevant. Which brings me to the second purpose of our mission. We need everything you've gathered on the current state of consortium politics." In the outpost's secure briefing room, Elias and his intelligence team presented 3 years of meticulously gathered information. The picture it painted was fascinating and potentially game-changing. The arachnids pushed for the quarantine because they feared human technological advancement, Elias explained, displaying a complex network of political relationships. But the actual effect has been to destabilize their own position within the consortium. "How so?" Sarah asked. "The arachnids maintained their dominance by selectively sharing technology with other species, creating dependencies," Elias continued. "Humans were disrupting that model by independently improving upon shared technologies and making those improvements widely available. With humans removed from the equation, many worlds have found themselves more dependent on arachnid technology than ever before, and they're growing resentful." "Creating an opportunity," Sarah realized. "Exactly," Elias confirmed. "The Echo protocol isn't just a stealth system. It's a political weapon. If we can demonstrate that humans have developed technology that surpasses arachnid capabilities, even while under quarantine, we change the narrative." Sarah finished. From humans as a disruptive threat to humans as essential innovators the consortium needs. With an added bonus, added Dr. Layla Nazari, the outpost's chief scientist. The ECHO protocol can be adapted to enhance communication technologies used by worlds on the consortium periphery, the same worlds most frustrated by arachnid control of information flow. Over the next week, the Resilient took on special cargo and new personnel from Outpost Whisper. The ship would make stops at 8 other secret human installations throughout consortium space, delivering ECHO protocol modules and extracting operatives whose missions were complete. At their final stop, a research outpost disguised as an abandoned consortium weather station on an oceanic world, Sarah received intelligence that changed the mission parameters entirely. A Consortium Security Council meeting has been called, reported Kai Tanaka, the infiltration specialist who'd been embedded on this world for the past 3 years. The topic is a review of the human quarantine, with a possible vote on modification of terms. That's unexpected, Sarah said, studying the secure data packet. What triggered the review? 2 factors, Kai explained. First, economic pressures. Several worlds are experiencing technological stagnation without human innovation. Second, and more concerningly, they've detected unusual energy signatures at the edge of your solar system. They suspect humanity may be preparing to violate the quarantine by force. Sarah exchanged glances with Raj. The construction of the Defiance and other advanced vessels hadn't gone unnoticed, despite Earth's best efforts at secrecy. When is this meeting scheduled? She asked. 3 days from now, on Harmonium. Kai replied. Most significant is who called for the review, Sentinel Prime, the Triterian representative. The Triterians were among those who originally voted against the quarantine. Sarah made a rapid decision. We're changing our return route. Set course for Harmonium. Commander, Harmonium is the consortium capital, Raj objected. The security there is impenetrable. Not to a ship using the ECHO protocol, Sarah countered. And not to a team with the right access codes, which I believe Kai can provide. The infiltration specialist nodded slowly. I can get a small team into the auxiliary observation chamber adjacent to the Security Council meeting room. But what exactly are you planning? A demonstration, Sarah replied with a determined smile. 3 days later, as the Consortium Security Council convened on Harmonium, representatives from 17 species gathered to debate the future of the human quarantine. The Arachnid delegation, led by Archmaster Vextil, argued forcefully for maintaining or even strengthening the isolation of Earth. The energy signatures detected at the edge of the human system confirm our original assessment. Vextil insisted, his mandibles clicking emphatically. They are developing military technology in violation of quarantine restrictions. The Triterian representative, Sentinel Prime, countered with economic data. 17 consortium worlds have reported significant technological regression since the quarantine began. The humans' innovative approach to problem-solving cannot be easily replaced. As the debate continued, none of the assembled delegates noticed the small access panel at the rear of the chamber sliding open. Sarah, wearing an adaptive camouflage suit developed by humanity during the quarantine years, slipped silently into the back of the chamber. With her came Kai and Layla, each carrying components of the demonstration that would change everything. The Meridian representative was speaking, its 4 arms gesturing in emphasis. The quarantine was justified as a safety measure, not a permanent exclusion. Perhaps it is time to consider a controlled reintegration of humans into consortium society. Archmaster Vextil's response was immediate and harsh. Impossible. Our projections indicate that human technological development, if allowed to proceed unchecked, would surpass arachnid achievements within 2 decades. The stability of the consortium depends on maintaining technological equilibrium. An interesting admission, Archmaster, Sarah said, deactivating her camouflage and stepping forward into the chamber. Her sudden appearance caused an uproar as security alerts blared throughout the complex. Who dares breach the Security Council? Demanded the Hive speaker who chaired the session. Sarah strode confidently to the center of the chamber. I am Commander Sarah Chen of Earth. I come representing not our government, but our potential. The potential you sought to contain through quarantine. Security forces began to converge on the chamber, but the Tritierian representative signaled them to wait. How did you penetrate our defenses? Sentinel Prime asked, more curious than alarmed. The same way I've spent the past month traveling freely through consortium space, visiting worlds where humans never left, Sarah replied, activating the device Lila had assembled. A holographic display materialized, showing the tracking data from consortium security networks. Data that showed no unauthorized vessels anywhere near Harmonium or along any approach vectors. Impossible, Vex Till hissed. Our sensor net is infallible. It was, Sarah corrected, when you designed it. But humans have spent 3 years developing independently of consortium constraints. In isolation, we've created technologies that render your security measures obsolete. She gestured to Kai, who activated a second device. The holographic display shifted to show the Resilient, currently in orbit directly above the consortium capital, completely undetected by the planet's defense grid. You quarantined humanity because you feared our potential. Sarah continued. You believed isolation would stunt our growth and maintain your technological dominance. Instead, you freed us from the very restrictions that were limiting our innovation. The chamber had fallen completely silent as the implications sank in. If domination was our goal, we could have used this technology very differently, Sarah pointed out. Instead, I'm here to offer a choice. Continue the quarantine if you wish. It will not contain us any longer. Or recognize that humanity's greatest strength isn't in our technology, but in our willingness to share it. Layla stepped forward, activating the final component of their demonstration, a complete technical overview of the ICO protocol, with applications that extended far beyond stealth technology. This is just one of many innovations we've developed in isolation, Sarah explained. Imagine what we could create as partners rather than prisoners. The Tritierian representative was the first to speak. I move for an immediate vote to suspend the human quarantine pending formal negotiations for reintegration. The motion passed 14-3, with even some traditional arachnid allies switching their votes. As the session concluded, Sentinel Prime approached Sarah privately. You took an enormous risk coming here, the Tritierian observed. No greater than the risk of allowing fear to determine the future of interspecies relations, Sarah replied. The arachnids will not easily surrender their influence, Sentinel Prime warned. Sarah smiled confidently. They won't have to. Humanity doesn't seek to dominate. We want to collaborate. The quarantine taught us that isolation benefits no one. The future lies in cooperation, not competition. As the Resilient broke orbit from Harmonium, carrying news of humanity's diplomatic triumph back to Earth, Sarah reflected on the journey that